I'm super
Okay.
excited to have you. Thank you so much for
Hey,
saying yes.
thanks for having me. Yeah, I've shot film before. Actually, I was just texting my brother right before this. I had two rolls of film this season, and like half of each roll came out black. And I was like, okay, there's a learning curve here. There's a learning curve here.
Yeah,
But it was the first time I shot film backstage, and I didn't have my flash. And like
yeah,
everything
uh,
in in this industry, it's going to be a learning curve. I just think that you learn so much faster when it comes to fashion week when it's like this
yeah,
condensed time and you kind of have to like get it in.
right. True. Very true. Yes, yes. Okay, so my first question to you is, can you just, I guess, like talk about who you are as an actual photographer first before we go over the other questions? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So, hi, my name is Tutyaymya. I am the founder of White Tea Black Dress. It's a creative media agency that focuses on fashion, beauty, and lifestyle. I started photographing New York Fashion Week around 2018. So I believe this last season was either my ninth or 10th season, something around there. So pretty much a self-taught photographer, and it's all just been a lot of trial and error, truthfully.
Okay, awesome, awesome. So what is it like to be a photographer for New York Fashion Week?
It's a very unique experience. I think it's equal parts exhilarating and exhausting. Super fast paced, high energy, visually stimulating. I think there's a lot of creative people that you come across, whether that's inside shows or outside shows, just like tons of creative energy that's kind of being explored that week. By the end of it, I tend to feel super accomplished, very motivated, inspired, despite how tired I often tend to complain, to be honestly.
That's awesome. Because I know mo most definitely for myself, it was actually a little bit difficult trying to make sure that once I'm done, like go back and like edit it. Like, how did you manage all of that?
I set different goals for myself every season. So every season is like some sort of like learning adventure for me. I slowly built up to that editing every single night, sort of posting every single night, editing after every show. I won't say that I'm still the best. I know that there are a few friends and colleagues out there who are much better at it than I am. But like everything, you kind of like push yourself to see how far you can go throughout the week. It is all about like exploring and experimenting. So like if it gets out there, it gets out there. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But that's also like I said, trial and error sort of situation. This season, my goal was actually to slow down a little bit. So still with the consistency of like sharing the images and editing the images on a nightly basis, but a lot less about like how should I phrase this about like tagging the people and making sure that they're being seen in the way that they need to be seen in terms of like marketing and networking. I got to that a little bit later in the week, I will say, but I didn't notice a big change. You know, like I said, different goals every season, not the best at it, but you know, with practice brings progress. Yeah, I know. It's like I was talking to this with like a few other photographers, and it really is like one of those like those personal decisions that you make. For me personally, I'm like because I've done this a few seasons, I think now I'm very much someone who's like, okay, I have a like a cutoff date where I'm like, you edit until this date, and then whatever gets out, and then you know, maybe February will come around and you get to do one of those like, hey, Fashion Week coming back around, T minus 5 days. But truthfully, there's so much content that is like captured and produced and created that week that you could stop shooting now and still have like a plethora of stuff to share from like a social media perspective, right? I really think it does come down to like what we personally like, how hard we are on ourselves, like what the composition is, what you're trying to put out there. And that changes at least from season to season.
Yeah, true. Very true. Do you have any interesting stories that has happened this season?
Yes. Yeah. Interesting stories. I think there's like top level highlights every season, whether that's like from my personal perspective, like Carla Martinez de Salas, who is the head editor of Vogue Mexico at Totem, or Rihanna at Alaya, Madonna at Luar. Who else? There were a few like really high level moments of like, wow, glam, this is fashion week. I am finding that like some of my more favorite interesting moments tend to be like those intimate interactions that we will share, that photographers and other creatives will share as we're waiting for the show to start, or like kind of hanging out backstage, talking about like who or what we saw that day, going through each other's camera rolls, inspiring each other to like go say hi to someone we've never said hi to before, right? Like those like shared moments between each other are kind of the ones that I'm finding much more interesting from like a personal perspective than maybe what are like high level highlights that are still super, super incredible in their own way, right? But maybe just like not as like deep and meaningful. Although I will say Rihanna or like seeing Sierra at Willy Chavarria, that was awesome. All of it is going to feel great to me.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Um, can you share some of your experiences as being a photographer, like being just like a woman photographer? Has there been any like differences or like things or struggles or challenges as like another like female photographer?
Yes. I mean, I think that there's always going to be like your one-off stories, right? I will say I've had wonderful interactions and a wonderful experience in terms of Fashion Week. Maybe not all of them perfect. And I do think that there's room for growth in terms of just diversity and representation in very specific avenues, whether that's from a fashion industry perspective or a just media photographer industry perspective. I do think that we've made a lot of growth, but there's still ways to go in terms of like who's telling our stories, how being told, how those are being shared. I mean, as a 5'1" Mexican American woman, you kind of learn to navigate some of those spaces, whether that's like shooting low, shooting high, going around, shooting through. I do think that's a testament to like how quickly you have to learn how to pivot that week. Um, but but to your point, I think there's like still a lot of opportunity for us in terms of just representation in the industry, despite how how great my own experience has been. I'm not saying there hasn't been, you know, the one-offs.
Going back to what you were saying about like approaching people, like what is what is your actual approach to capturing people outside of shows? Because sometimes that could be very intimidating. And I know for myself, I actually saw Nigel Barker, and I was just like,
Okay.
something inside of me said, go say hi to him. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go say hi to him. So like for your actual like perspective, how do you get the courage to just approach someone to actually take pictures of them?
You know what? That was me with Carla Martina de Salas this season. I was like, you know what happens is, to your point, you're like, this could be a once in a lifetime opportunity, right? The industry in itself moves so quickly, and there's so many of us that you really do have to take opportunities when they're presented to you, despite how small they may seem in that moment, right? Because you never know where that like, hey, quick, hey, how's it going? How are you doing? My name is so and so might get you. I'm a big believer in that. Um, I I will say this. I think when I first started off, I was like a photographer who tended to like stay back a little bit. There also wasn't a lot of information when I started off as a New York Fashion Week photographer, right? Like I would Google what is this the street style photographer, how to become a street style photographer, and all these stories were from mostly from like the male perspective, and the few that were from like a woman's perspective tend to lean towards the side of like aggression. Like you're gonna have to be super aggressive and claiming your space and owning it. And so I remember my first season, I was like, I'm just kind of gonna like slowly creep into these spaces, whatever I capture, I can capture. I'm also a sucker for like a traditional, just like great walking across the street shot. It's what I gravitated to when I was, posting on Pinterest and Tumblr. So that seemed really easy to me in terms of street style photography. But again, the longer I'm in this, the more it really does become about the people. You're seeing each other for 8 hours straight, 5 days in that entire week. If you do the month, that's even longer. And so it really becomes awkward when you're like, hey, it's nice to see you again, right? The interactions really like get some depth when you start to introduce yourself and you start really like forming those connections. So lately I've been all about just like a quick hi, how's it going? What's your next show? Can I grab a quick photo? Can it be nerve-wracking? Sure. Will some people say no? Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes, you're in a rush, so they're just like running through, and you're like, I'll capture you. I'll capture what I capture. But that's also the fun of it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I think I remember one experience. It was with Ava. She was on America's Next Top Model, and I remember saying
Mhm.
it was literally just these words that just like blurred out like, "Hey, do you mind if I take a picture of you?" And she's like, "Yeah, of course." And I was like, "Okay, I got this." And then like as soon as I was just like taking her picture, I kind of knew I wanted a couple more minutes with her, and like I actually needed to hurry up. So I said,
Yeah.
I know I didn't really fully get the shot, but do you mind if you stay a little bit longer? I'm just gonna go fast. She's like, yeah, of course. She's like, okay, cool. So I was like, stop, 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 or whatever. She's like, okay, cool. I gotta go. Thank you so much. You're so gorgeous. I
That's,
said, yeah,
that's so sweet. But
yeah.
those are
So
like
I was
the
just
sort
like,
of,
oh my gosh, thank you. I was like, you are too. She's like, great, bye. I was like, great, bye. I don't think we touch much as of being like backstage and then being in the pit. Um,
yeah.
that actual option was presented to me, and I was like, I don't think I want to be in the pit. Like, I'm scared to
Okay.
even be in the
Okay.
pit. And I think you've probably been in the pit a couple of times and backstage. So, like,
Yeah.
can you actually give us a little bit of like how it was to be in the pit and then backstage?
I don't like choosing a favorite in between like street style backstage or the pit. Like if you ever see me at a show, you will see me like go try to get to backstage as early as possible so that I can like try to run to the pit. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But I really enjoy the creative freedom of like kind of being able to navigate both of those spaces and both of those sectors because backstage there's like you get to see the fantasy occurring, right? Like you get to almost like witness it unfold. And there's this like real uh kind of like my idea of what I grew up with when I used to see fashion documentaries, and now I get to be the
Yeah,
one to kind of hold the camera and
true. Yeah.
capture those moments, right? And because a lot of the times I'm sitting here being like, oh my God, we never know where this model's gonna end up. We never know where this like makeup artist is gonna end up. Hell, we never know where we're gonna end up. And so in those moments, it really does feel when you're backstage that you're just like a part of like something so much bigger than yourself. And like you're really just like a piece of that puzzle. The thing I love about the pit is that I there's this moment right before the show starts where the lights will go off and everything is like completely silent, and you can almost sense what's about to transpire. And like if you haven't been backstage, you don't know what to expect, you don't know what the first piece is going to be or what that's going to look like. And so there's this moment of anticipation that's extremely stunning to me whenever I'm there. Those are also moments where I'm like, wow, I can't believe I'm here. Like I can't believe this is me sitting here in these spaces. I wish there were more of us, truthfully. But I think those moments to me are something that doesn't occur from a street style perspective. I think street style is chaotic, but it's a lot less contained. Whereas like backstage in the pit, there's, I'm contained to the pit. I'm contained to this back room. Street style, I love it because it's not contained. You'll have like someone in one corner shooting one thing. You'll have like multiple people crossing the street. You'll have someone standing like, I don't know, on a subway cart, whatever, like these very like creative visions because you're in the street and anything is possible. So I love all of it. I am a fan of Fashion Week. I don't think that when I started in 2018, I don't think I would have seen myself doing this for as long as I have, but I tell people all the time, you know, I love this industry. I truly believe that it can be a catalyst to change if it wants to be. And the fact that I kind of get to be a very small piece of that change in the process is something that I don't think I ever expected when I was younger. You know, those are really those crazy moments, like
Yeah.
Rihanna kind of walking by, and like that also felt super intimate. That moment with Rihanna at the Elias show, like that was also super intimate. There weren't that many photographers, there weren't that many fans. There was a glass mirror, and you could kind of see the models like going from like backstage onto the runway show, and you could see like their transition. I don't know, these like really minuscule moments that I think to myself like, wow, how did I get here with what audacity? And simultaneously like, wow, what a blessing to be able to navigate these spaces and like kind of take ownership of some of these spaces.
Yes, yes,
I
yeah.
don't know, how do you feel, because you've been
I
doing this for a little
do.
bit?
Yeah, I do. I absolutely agree with that. And I actually had some aha moments throughout this time around. And it like almost like made me tear up a little bit because I was just like, oh my gosh, this is actually happening. Um, so it was the one moment where I was at Zonkoff show, and it was actually just a it was just actually just a presentation type of thing. And all of a sudden I walk in and I actually see one of the models that I had shot like a few years back, and I was actually trying to help him to get signed, and he got
Yeah,
signed
that's
um
amazing.
right after I shot him. And it was just this aha moment where I was just like, oh my gosh, like we're actually here at the same time,
Yeah.
and just and seeing that, I was just like that was really beautiful. So I actually just stopped and I said, thank you so much. I actually can't, I just I just can't believe that this is happening, like us at the same spot. And I thought that was cool. And then another moment was when I saw Coco Rocha. Like I absolutely love her stuff, and I do these like themes where it's just this actual posing thing or whatever, these like series. I don't do it as much as I used to or whatever. So that was actually another aha moment of actually just seeing her in person, just like walking one of the
Mhm.
shows. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, yeah. So yeah,
Amazing.
I actually
But
had,
that's what I mean by like
yeah.
by how large it is, like it's
Mhm.
still really intimate. Like the fact that you
Yeah,
shot with this model like years ago and now you're both
yeah,
in the same room at the same time in the same
yeah,
space, like
yeah.
there is this um like closeness
Hmm.
despite how many of us there are, right? And I think that
Yeah,
like at Fashion Week, you really can sense it, you really see it, you really feel it when people are like walking up to each other and being like, "Hi, oh my God, I haven't seen you in 6 months," or like, "Hey, how was that last show?" Or "Did you talk to so and so?" I There's so much in like the interactions of like introductions with one another where I'm constantly like, wow, this is growth. Like from the time I started to now, there has been this magical exponential growth of street style photographers that, at least from my perspective, I'm constantly learning from and constantly being inspired by. And as someone who's self-taught, I think it's so much easier to kind of explore some of that within community.
yeah,
Than like having to do it by yourself.
yeah. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, yeah. So thank you so much for taking the time to do this